Good morning. Welcome to Viking Preparedness. I'm Pastor Joe Fox. So, it's not what you don't know that'll get you killed. It's the things you are convinced are so that just aren't that'll get you killed. Today's video, we're going to look at that concept. Stick around. Cue the intro. 1 second flashes of Pastor Joe starting a fire, chickens, building a homestead, guns, people with bobs, and then finally a Viking ship coming ashore. Viking logo fades in. Hey, welcome back. A friend of mine, a guy I respect, posted on a board or a comment or something recently. That comment that I started with, and I'm probably getting it a little bit wrong, but it's not what you don't know that'll get you killed. It's what you're convinced is so that isn't that'll get you killed. And I'm going to cut a little bit close to the bone on this video for some of you, and please understand, I'm not trying to offend you personally. I'm just picking examples of things out. I get lots of comments. I like the comments. I read, I don't know, a third of them. And I see things sometimes that just make me SMH. Shake my head. You know, a man should never type that, right? That's just so feminine. SMH. Another video. Good morning. A lot of people they say, I heard it. I heard that, and then they give advice. Well, I heard that, and they give advice. People do it with the Bible, too. Well, I heard it says in the Bible, man, you should never do that. If you heard something that you are getting ready to purport as advice, if you heard something, or you think you know something that you are going to do yourself, or you're planning on yourself, you really owe it to yourself to go check it out. And I'll give you an example. I got 1,000 comments on my EMP video. Oh, just stick your radios in an old microwave. That'll work. I heard that using an old microwave will work. Have you tested it? Have you tested it? I know you saw it on the internet. Have you tested it? Pretty simple thing to do before you tell everybody to do it, right? I read many comments. I haven't. I read many comments that, well, you got to cut the cord off, or you got to ground it, or no, that only works on certain frequencies, not all frequencies. Dun, 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 dun. Have you tested it? I have a friend, a good friend, and he says, if you haven't tested it, it don't work. Can't count on it if you haven't tested it. You know, in the military, we test everything. Heck, before we go out on a mission, we go to just a little tiny range and test fire weapons just to make sure they're working. Yeah, I know they're clean and they worked last night, but before we go out on this thing, we're going to test fire these babies to make sure they work, because our lives could depend on it. And so you need to test fire your ideas, really test them, all these things you think you know. Another example, I was talking about, again, in the EMP video, about how, batteries are going to run out, and people are going to go to kerosene lamps if they have them. And then I asked you, do you have kerosene? Do you have wicks? And somebody said, oh, you can use these certain plant fibers for wick, and you can use animal fat for kerosene. And I actually asked that person, which is what cued this video, have you done that? Have you done that? Because if you haven't, you're giving advice on something you don't even know. I'll give you another example that I can be even more specific. Somebody told me one time, a long time ago in my videos, when we were having a video on all the rock coming in that we were putting down on the roads. We paid a couple $1,000s each time we had rock brought in. And so these big dump trucks are coming in and dumping these huge piles of rock, and then bulldozers are spreading it. And I had a couple different comments. One was, well, you ought to just spread that yourself with shovels. Yeah, you're welcome to come out here, and you're actually not, but try to spread this rock with shovels. It ain't gravel. I've spread a lot of gravel with shovels in my life. These are big rocks and little rocks and dirt and stuff, and you just can't spread it with a shovel. You can. It would take forever to do. I had somebody, I think they were honestly, giving real advice. Well, you have enough rocks there, you could just break them into gravel and spread them. We could. We could also build the Great Wall of China here with all the rocks we have, given the correct amount of time, man hours. These are silly things. I mean, if you get to doing it, somebody told me today, because I was talking about trees, all the standing dead timber we have here, I'll never really want for firewood. Um, and somebody said, well, don't forget, you can take the grubs out of the trees and feed them to your chickens. Now, see, that sounds like pretty good advice, right? Making the max use of what's going on. Dude, or dudette, people, here's the reality. I'm on almost 200 acres out here. My chickens want for no food. I mean, they can go eat bugs and grubs all they want. I am not going to spend however long it would take to pull, a handful of grubs out of a whole big tree that I'm trying to reduce to firewood. It just doesn't make sense. Have you cut firewood? Have you? Have you gone out there and cut the firewood down and cut it into pieces and then split it and then hauled it? And you want to be picking out, 10, 20 grubs out of a tree looking for them while you're doing that? No, you don't. You just don't. Um, a lot of people think they know things because they saw it on the internet. They heard some old gray bearded dude like me say something and they're like, yeah, that'll work. You got to go do it yourself. I'm all about doing, right? I always try to get you guys to do stuff. We say in our religious circles that the Hebrew way of learning is by doing, and quite frankly, it's the Eastern way. The Eastern way of learning is by doing, and I'll give you an example. When I was, man, fifth grade, long time ago, um, many winters ago, I was living in Southeast Asia, and I was taking Taekwondo. Now, this was back in the early 70s, right? And we had a Korean instructor whose two knuckles, I can't point because I'm holding this little selfie stick, but his first two knuckles right there was a flat black oval. A flat black oval on both fists. And he would make these fists and he could pound the concrete floor. Boom! You could feel it. It's like, wow, because he had morphed his hand into that from so many times. He made us kids, now picture this, moms and dads, with your kids in martial arts. He made us do push-ups on our knuckles on concrete. That's just how you started the practice. To do. And when you were bad, what's bad for a 50-year-old? You start talking to your buddy about something that happened in school today instead of doing your 10,000th punch. He would come up and he would make you grit your teeth, and he would punch you on both sides of the mouth at the same time. Again, I'm holding this selfie stick, so I can't do it, but boom! And the higher rank you were, the harder he would hit you. And there were probably seventh graders who were almost black belts that he was wailing on. Boom! And it hurt. And he didn't spend a whole lot of time explaining stuff to us. You just got that instant rod of correction when you did something wrong. And so, you're throwing 10,000 punches. I'm exaggerating, but you're throwing a bazillion, I'm exaggerating again, punches in practice. And nobody's saying, all right, look, when you throw a punch, first thing is you're going to make your fist super tight. You're going to roll it into a tight ball. You're going to cock it back here on your hip, palm facing up. As you go forward, you're going to rotate your fist and you're going to hit with the two knuckles and sound off with a loud and mighty "Gyaw!" Right? He didn't explain that. You just did it over and over and over. And after a while, these light bulbs would go off in your head. Oh, that's how you do it. And if you're not in your horseback riding stance enough, he'd come over and knock you down. That would never work in America today. You have to stand up there in front of people and explain every little thing, first of all, because, all right, just like I did with the fist. This is how you make a fist. This is how you cock it. Put it right here. Put your body posture like this. All right, when you throw your punch, and you explain everything, and then it's like, okay, so explain it to me, and then I'll understand. All right, now I can go do. So you explain it to me, I understand, then I can do. The Eastern way is do it, then you will understand. Whole different mindset. I submit to you that you don't know anything until you've actually put hands on, done it many times, failed a couple times, figured out ways around your failures, and keep going. Just because you heard that you can eat dandelions on the internet, have you eaten dandelions? Now I'm going to get a lot of comments. Yeah, I have. Okay, cool. Good for you. So have I. You want to learn about edible plants? That's another thing. I get that advice a lot. Make sure you have books on edible plants. Yeah. Get your books on edible plants today. Start going out, and actually this is starting to be a bad time of year, at least around here, to search for edible plants. Go out with your book of edible plants, search for edible plants, find the edible plant, pick it, procure it, whatever you're going to do, harvest it, take it home, prepare it, and eat it. And even better, have a little field book where you take notes and sketches in it. That locks it into your brain. So then when you walk through the woods or the fields or the parks or the road, you see that plant and you know it. So you've done it. And so you've internalized it. Hearing, I've got this book on edible plants. If Armageddon comes, blah, blah. Or I hear you can make coffee out of chicory. Have you ever done that? I have. It's a dark, bitter brew. There's no caffeine in it. I got those comments too from people. So, excuse me. Gotta quit smoking. I really encourage you all to check yourself. When you say I heard something, and you're using that as advice or using that as a plan for yourself, well, I heard that I can drink pond water, and I'm just going to do that. Well, have you done it? Go do it. EMP. I was going to say this in the EMP video, and this is a learning by doing kind of video here, checking the facts for yourself, so I'll throw it in there now. There's this whole thing out there, and it's starting to make a lot of money, called bushcrafting. And there's a lot of cool stuff on the internet. There's a lot of people getting into it. First of all, you don't need to spend very much money at all to do real bushcrafting, right? You need a knife, and you don't need to buy a $300 knife like I've done. A knife will do it. And then after that, you don't really need anything, right? Isn't that kind of the purpose of bushcrafting? I know. They sell all this stuff, wool blanket, cool little pot, dun, 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 dun. Whatever. Go on with your bad self. America. But if you are good at bushcrafting, if you can go out into yon woods with nothing and survive, not survive, but thrive, you'll do good in all kinds of situations. You really will. Because if you can live with nothing, then when you got something, you're already ahead of the game, right? And so I would encourage you to take up the hobby of bushcrafting. For us in this part of the world, this is the time of year to start getting outside because the chiggers and the ticks are almost gone. And it's fun and it's cool. It's not super hot. It's not cold. It's just wonderful. So, go out there and learn how to build a brush shelter. Learn how to cook over a fire. Not just build a fire, cook over a fire. Learn how to cook over a fire without, $400 cook sets. Learn how to make a comfortable bed. On. Just learn these things, and they'll help you in everything. A guy who I read a lot about as a young man, and I think at the time he was like one of 5 wilderness survival instructors actually making a living at it, was Tom Brown. I think it's Tom Brown Jr. And he went off onto this mystical thing that I just couldn't follow after a while, new agey kind of stuff. But hey, if it works for him, it works for him, right? But he put a book out. He put a series of books out that were very good. They had good pencil drawings in them, and they were wilderness survival type things. And then he did one, I don't remember what it was called, and my library's all packed up in boxes getting ready to come down here. But he did one on urban survival using wilderness survival techniques. Example, one way to stay warm is you build basically a squirrel nest, right? So you build some kind of shelter, you fill it with leaves, and you crawl into the middle of it. So it's like insulation all around you. Well, he showed that concept in an urban environment where you take mattresses and paper bags and newspaper and stuff, and you make like a little squirrel nest out of it. And he did all kinds of things like that. And I thought it was a really good book. It was good taking concepts from there and applying them to a city-urban environment. And so you can do the same thing. But you have to do it. See, that's the thing. There's so many people, and I do this too. I mean, if you go through my videos, you'll find things where I said, well, I think blah, 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 and it turns out not to be so. It's why I'm testing my Faraday cage. I'm not going to tell you that you can use a galvanized trash can just because I saw somebody who said, yep, this works for me. It's got to work for me before I tell you about it. But then when I tell you about it, I'm not lying to you, but you ought to go check it yourself. Right? Check everything. What did Ronnie Reagan say? Trust, but verify. All right. Hey, get out there and do stuff. Really do stuff, especially important stuff. And when you hear things like, well, I think somebody said, Google is your friend. Find out who said that. Go find out. If you say, well, I think the Bible says, well, then look it up in the Bible. Look it up in the Word. You might be surprised what you find. All right, just my thoughts this early morning. I hope y'all are having a great day. Take every chance you can every day to learn something new, to practice something that you need to practice, to take another step on the way to preparedness. I do not care if you live in the fourth floor apartment in Detroit. You can better your situation and you can end up doing okay in a bad event if you just keep moving forward. Do the best you can with what you got, where you are, and I will see you out there.